From the very first booster set in Yu-Gi-Oh!, a menace has been looming. The alternate win condition of Exodia was printed in Legend of Blue Eyes. Although exceedingly rare, it is technically possible to have a 0-turn kill with Exodia. 1 in 658,008. But more common is the possibility of the first turn kill, the topic of this video essay. Since a player cannot conduct the battle phase during the first turn of the game, FTKs in Yu-Gi-Oh! Can only occur through the use of alternate win conditions, mill, or burn damage. Exodia was the first alternate win condition introduced to the game, and others like Forbidden Board, Venomanaga, and So Cute Boss require multiple turns to achieve their prerequisite conditions. Interestingly enough, through the use of Makyura the Destructor and Pyro Clock of Destiny, Final Countdown can technically cause an FTK. Intended mechanics. Speaking of Makyura the Destructor, its effect to allow traps to be activated from the hand facilitates many FTK strategies, including the Exchange of Spirit Mill FTK, although the card has since seen an erratum to prevent this particular abuse. Empty Jar was another mill-based FTK strategy, with the intent of removing cards from your opponent's deck and victory being declared upon the opponent being unable to draw a card. Makyura accelerated the game to a dangerous degree, and as a result, will probably never see its way off the ban list without an erratum. On the other hand, a handful of different monsters have skirted their way around the TCG ban list for years. If I could speculate, I would say that the most difficult design space to tackle in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is burn damage, substantiated by a number of burn cards either currently on the ban list, like Mass Driver, or having left the list due to an errata, like Ring of Destruction or Dark Strike Fighter. The OCG has a pretty hardline position when it comes to monsters which tribute to inflict burn damage, with cards like Amazon Archer or the Cannon Soldier family being banned. Interestingly, the power of Cannon Soldier in particular has been evident since the Duel Monsters era, as there is a brief quip featured in the Music to Duel By album, specifically in the World of Yu-Gi-Oh! Song. The principal solution to these cards is the once per turn restriction, as seen in the updated card text on Catapult Turtle. The effectiveness of these burn cards is the result of two factors: the ease of swarming through special summoning, and the lack of an exhausted state on the monsters. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's a once per turn restriction on the normal and pendulum summon, and Master Rule 4 restricts extra deck summoning, but in general, there's no limit on special summoning main deck monsters. As more cards are printed, loops appear, or a critical mass of easy to special summon monsters builds, and with between 8 and 16 monsters, you can deplete your opponent's life points in one turn. A new Master Rule restricting special summons seems unlikely, although one was successfully implemented into the Trinity format as a counterpoint. The most likely solution lies in the exhausted state. Burn spells like Okazi are a -1 in card advantage, and the amount of burn is rather insignificant. Cannon Soldier can tribute another monster, then remain on the field, ready to tribute another. In Magic, there are also cards which can inflict damage, such as Prodigal Sorcerer, but they need to be tapped to do so. This is not a hard once per turn, as cards can untap the Sorcerer, though it does limit the potential damage substantially. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has two types of once per turn effect. Hard once per turns, like Spellbook of Secrets, where only a single copy of the card named Spellbook of Secrets can be activated per turn. And soft once per turns, like Barrel Dragon, where the effect can be activated once for each copy of the card. To elaborate on this distinction, if you had 2 copies of Spellbook of Secrets in your hand, you could only activate one that turn. If you had 2 Barrel Dragons on the field, you could use the effect of each one once that turn. Why I call FTK strategies a menace is not for lack of counterplay, as hand traps like Hanewata can be used to shut down burn strategies, or Droll and Lockbird to prevent the draw-dependent Exodia strategies. Although, There is literally no counterplay to your opponent drawing Exodia in the opening hand. And FTK is a subcategory of degenerate gameplay, perhaps the most basal degeneration. The strategy is derivative and uninteresting to pilot or oppose. There's a reason why Frog FTK format was terminated, and why Mass Driver and Substitoad will never be unbanned without serious errata. It is difficult to say that monsters which can inflict burn damage is an area of design space which should not be explored, as cards like Gaga Cowboy are rather beloved, or at least they were, before the end of match procedures caused the game to become more arbitrary. But that word, arbitrary, is really striking a chord, that FTKs reduce the game to a single turn, and your responses are determined by your initial draw. There is a binary win condition where your opponent wins if you didn't draw your hand trap, or their glass cannon deck loses after you are able to interrupt it. At the end of the day, I say the game must be interactive and well balanced. If a deck removes interaction, even if it has a relatively low win rate, it is damaging to the game as a whole because it destroys player enjoyment. Ideally, a card game should be engaging for both players. Balance is also important, as you should never feel like you're at a huge disadvantage. A particular difficult sell in collectible card games, due to power creep, rotation, new cards printed, and artificial scarcity. Balance transitions from a design problem to an economic problem, and I would say that this trend is exemplified in Magic the Gathering. Next time, we are going back to discussing lands.